Why is this Checkmate and 2 puzzle so difficult? In this video we're going to be discussing this really interesting puzzle that I needed to solve in the British Chess Championship puzzle solving competition. The stipulation is this: it is white to move and to try and checkmate black in only 2 moves against all defences. So I'm not interested in checkmates and 3s, I'm not interested in checkmate and 4s, I only want a checkmate and 2. See if you can solve it, pause the video, and when you try and find the solution you're interested and you like the solution that I'm showing you, do make sure you leave a like, share this with a friend to see if they can solve it. Okay, so let's have a look at this particular puzzle. So when I'm trying to solve compositions like checkmate and 2s, the first thing I like to do is draw out the escape squares or the flight squares for the black king. Now in this position we're quite lucky because there are no flight squares for the black king. All of white's pieces guard it in some way. So now in my head I already know that all I need to do is try and check this black king to win this game. However, it's easier said than done. Very rarely do checkmate compositions like this one, or mate and 2 compositions like this one, involve just a simple check and then mate. So a move like queen to d5 does look very tempting and probably the first move you looked at. The problem here is now black can just sacrifice a few pieces after, let's say, rook to c6 as an example. You look like you've blocked this mate, but white can play here on g8, but black can sacrifice the rook on c8. Annoyingly, this is checkmate in 3, but it fails our rules of trying to checkmate in only 2 moves. So let's go back just a moment. So that's the first thing I would say about these. Have a look at the checks, see why they don't work, but often in these puzzles checks are never normally the answer. Okay, so we've got the flight squares for the black king, we've looked at that, and we've looked at the one available check and how that doesn't work. Just so you're aware, this pawn cannot move forward. Lots of people, when I was at this puzzle competition, you'd be shocked at this, were saying like, why isn't b7 just checkmate in 1? Well, the rook here is pinning this pawn. It's probably the first thing people looked at and went, what? Why is that not? Okay, so there we go. I've solved that issue for you. Okay, so the next thing I like to look at is what are my legal moves in this position? Well, this king can't move, this pawn can't move. So already I can rule out these as my first moves. I can move this knight and I can move this queen, but quite often what I like to look at to give me a sense of what pieces to move is which of these pieces is doing a useful task. And what I mean by that is which piece is maybe guarding an escape square or doing some useful role. In this position, this knight is guarding this particular escape square on b8, so it's doing quite a useful role. And to be honest with you, any of the knight moves, let's say, I don't know, the knight comes here for example, well, they can be met quite simply with a move such as maybe rook to c6. There's no checkmates here to be found now. You can't move this pawn obviously because of the pin, so that doesn't work. So any of these knight moves, I did have a look at them. I mean, you don't want to be stupid and do something like this. I mean, this still wins, but it's not a good move. And there's not really any other useful moves here. Even a move such as this, okay, you just take here, and okay, this is going to end in a mate in 4, but it's not going to be in a mate in 2. So this knight is doing a useful role, so we leave that alone. So really the only piece that we need to focus on in this is this queen, and by process of elimination we can look at all of these squares that the white queen can go to. Now my first thought when I was trying to solve this is I was thinking about a move such as maybe queen to a2. This looked tempting, and the reason why this looked tempting was if, let's say, as an example, if say the knight comes here, for example, you win with b7, this knight is now blocking the pathway of this rook. So this looked pretty good, and if this rook were to, let's say, move over to this square, I thought, oh brilliant, I can checkmate here on g8. The problem is black has got a way to block all of these threats. He can still keep his rook. By the way, if he moves it here, by the way, this just loses in 1 move. So this was my other thought process. But he can just move it to g6, and this guards this square for now. You do have this check, again, looks tempting, but you can now block it and there's no checkmate in 2. So I thought that this looked like a good move, but sadly it doesn't work. And I looked at quite a few other moves, but it all failed to me, either the rook checking or the rook coming back to e8 to try and block it all. So that's why the solution to this problem, once you've gone through all of these moves, is the very surprising queen to e5. I love this move. Very fancy, very nice. It's the only way you're going to get checkmate in 2. Here is the idea. If the rook is to capture, this is the first, probably the first move you're thinking of. b7 is checkmate. The knight, pawn and king, they work together. Notice that the rook has been deflected away from pinning this pawn. Okay, so that's the first thing. The other threat is quite simple. I'm going to be putting my queen onto b8 to checkmate. Now you might think, okay, knight blocks, that seems pretty good, that stops that mate. Once again, it fails to b7. Oh dear. What other moves could black try in this position? Well, if he tries to maybe sacrifice his rook, then you've got knight takes on b6 with checkmate. I love it. Very, very nice. What other moves can black do in this position? Well, there's not a whole lot he can do. He could try and maybe move a knight over to b5. This obviously fails to this. And any other move, let's say the rook comes here. As soon as you take it off this file, you're going to win with a move like this with b7, or even just taking here as well. That's also pretty good. So that's why this particular puzzle has the solution of queen e5, a beautiful queen sacrifice to win the game in 2 moves. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you were able to solve it, but if you weren't, let me know in the comments below. If you found some other solutions, or you think you found a solution that isn't the one that I showed you, let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to tell you why that probably isn't the solution. Okay, but as always, thank you for watching and I'll see you soon. Take care, bye.